we are strong enough to listen to reason, to sax, not to stuffy. Now's not the time to play the fool, blind to the inequity. Think of what we could be. Let's make change for the better. No excuses, lies. Let's make change for the better. Think of what we could be.
We pause this morning from the busyness and the brokenness of the world in this sanctuary of the Spirit, which is both physical and virtual. This sanctuary of the Spirit in which generations have worshiped and listened for the call of love. We gather to be held by this community and to hold one another. We gather in gratitude for our ancestors, whose love and struggle made possible our lives, and we gather with the promise that our lives will make possible the lives of those who follow us, our children and their children. We gather to hold all of this and to be held by this community. Come now, and let us worship together.
short people need a stool. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to All Souls Church on a beautiful, crisp fall morning where we have a few leaves still left on the trees. My name is Jana Owens, and I am honored to serve on the worship team this morning. At All Souls, we welcome all people at our table of love and fellowship, where we strive to build what Dr. King called the beloved community. I missed church last Sunday, and I don't know if it was mentioned, it probably was, but we celebrated the 200th anniversary of our congregation on the evening of November 11th. It was a joyous occasion, and I stood there by somebody and counted 100 tolls of the bell. For those who are new to All Souls and don't know the history, the bell was cast in the year 1822 by Joseph Revere, the son of Paul Revere. It is a cherished bell here. We are a diverse Unitarian Universalist congregation. We have a long history of commitment to social justice and acts of compassion. And at this point, I feel like I need to talk about my personal history briefly, that of having been born in the South with the microphone. There, it's back. I was born in an evangelical family in what was the segregated South. I'm 66 years old. The All Souls congregation I cherish because of its commitment to working to make the world a better place than the one into which we were born. Before moving to the DC area, I was a Unitarian, and I heard about All Souls for over 20 years. And the first time my husband and I were able to attend in person together, we just looked at each other and it's like, this is it. This is our new home church. We were so excited. Now, if you're new to All Souls, all I can do is encourage you to keep coming back. It is so worth it. Experts are telling us that we're going to reach past the worst part of the pandemic, and I'm hoping that soon larger numbers of us will be gathering together. And I think I see more people in this week than 2 weeks ago. Now, regarding our order of service, those who are here in the sanctuary, if you look at the back of the pew in front of you, there is a QR code. You can scan that and open the order of service on your phone. If somebody really needs a printout, I think one of our ushers could help get one to you. We have a few printed. If you are attending virtually on Zoom, then open the chat window and you'll find a link you can click on to open it. And now for my favorite part, let's do our time of greeting. We call it online and Zoom, we call it beholding. If you're on Zoom, you can turn your camera on optionally, but at any rate, turn on the gallery view and scroll through where you can see everybody. If your camera's on, you can wave. You can also send text messages. For those here in the sanctuary, feel free to get up and move around a bit, do some elbow bumps, make this sign to a lot of people. Let's take a couple of minutes and greet each other. Thank you all for your greetings with each other. Again, welcome to All Souls.
We went up to the mountain, way up in the hills. The wind was still and sweet, yeah, and shook away my will, blowing all your mercy down. Wipe away my face clear. Still and moving, devastating and life-giving. What lesson to learn? I'm certain I'll accept my fate, crushed and lifeless under all my hurt. No, that's not your path, my child, not the way it should be. But the journey will kill you, so rest yourself a little while here with me. Don't you know why we came here, where the trees knew my name? I laid my face in soil, used my hands to till up all my shame. You bent down, kissed my filthy hands, laid your clean face to mine. And shape my arms to fly. On my own, nothing's alright. Alright, meet me up on the mountain. Oh. Go back to that mountain. I know you're not there, and though
Whew. Hello, All Souls, and a special welcome as well to the online visitors from First Parish in Cambridge, Mass, who are joining us today. We are grateful for everyone who is with us wherever you are in the world. I want to highlight 3 events in the life of the church and end with a quick invitation. First, our Thanksgiving Day Connect program matches people who want or can offer some more connection over the holiday. If you want someone to reach out to you or you're willing to reach out to someone, please email Reverend Louise Green by Tuesday, the 23rd. Second, rather than an in-person Thanksgiving food drive, we are once again doing a special financial collection to donate 100 giant gift cards to each of our 3 community partner organizations, Beacon House Community Ministry, La Clinica del Pueblo, and Columbia Heights Village. Your contributions to this special collection will go directly to a household served by one of these organizations. Please give if you are able. And third, please note that next Sunday's service, November 28th, is online only, to give more of our staff a holiday break. Let me say that again. Next Sunday's service. Thank you. Next Sunday's service is what? Online. Thank you. To give the staff more. Those of you who show up in person, please have a worship together here at the steps. And last but not least, the invitation. For those of you who are worshiping with us in person, we invite you to stop by the table outside after the service and decorate a star for our Christmas tree. We turn now to our congregational concerns, which today are also national and international concerns. Friday's acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse is a sad but not surprising reminder of the work we have to do in our nation. As we await the outcomes of 2 other trials, those charged with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia, and those who organized the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, let us commit and recommit again to ending racism and white supremacy. We also recognize that yesterday, November 20th, was the Transgender Day of Remembrance, an annual ritual to honor the transgender people who lost their lives to violence in the previous year. 2021 was the deadliest year on record, and most of the 374 lost around the world are Black women and people of color. We offer prayers of grief and solidarity to all who identify as transgender, genderqueer, or gender nonconforming. You are beautiful and you are loved. And this Thursday is Thanksgiving, a holiday that is both deeply cherished and deeply problematic, frankly. It's about being grateful in relationship, connecting with family and friends, but also about acknowledging the ways we are deeply out of relationship with Indigenous communities. It doesn't have to be just one or the other. We can hold both of these truths. If you would like to be more involved in All Souls' work in any of these arenas, to reimagine policing, to fight transphobia, to join our Trans Plus Souls group, or to work towards right relationship with Indigenous communities, please email me. Our work will continue for as long as it takes. And now we shift to our congregational concerns. We are deeply saddened to announce the death of Mark Herzog, who died peacefully at home last weekend after living for a year with a brain tumor. We send our loving care to his husband, Chris Costa, to their 8th grade son, Grant Herzog. We hold Chris and Grant and their extended family in this great loss. A celebration of life will take place in the spring. And Ricarda Dee Dee Scheim, a formerly active member of All Souls, died at home on November 4th at the age of 92. We send blessings to her 4 children, Paul, Melinda, Pete, and Andrea. A memorial will be scheduled next spring or summer, and donations in her honor can be sent to the Friends Meeting of Washington. And finally, member Mary Swanson was hospitalized this week with chest pains and underwent cardiac testing. She is continuing to recover at home in Portland, Oregon, next door to her family, Nina, Brian, and Lincoln, who are joining us by video this morning. Our love goes out to Mary and to everyone in her family. In the silence that follows, please speak aloud the names of those you carry on your heart today. Spirit of life, God of love and liberation, we pray that you hold us close as we, in our beautiful and fragile human bodies, try to hold so much hate, so much injustice, so much suffering. Remind us that when we open our hearts to grief, we also open our hearts to each other. And when we open our hearts to each other, we open our hearts to love. Remind us, transcendent power, that we can find solace and courage by sharing our tears, our anger, and our dreams. Through our shared prayers and our shared actions, may we heal ourselves and our world. Amen.
Spirit of love, come.
Our reading this morning is Invocation by Elizabeth Alexander. These words are etched in stone at the memorial to lynching victims in Montgomery, Alabama. The wind brings your names. We will never dissever your names, nor your shadows beneath each branch and tree. The truth comes in on the wind, is carried by water. There is such a thing as the truth. Tell us how you got over. Say, soul, I look back in wonder. Your names were never lost, each name a holy word. The rocks cry out, call each name to sanctify this place. Sounds in human voices, silver or soil, a moan, a sorrow song, a keen, a cackle, harmony, a hymnal, handbook, chart, a sacred text, a stomp, an exhortation. Ancestors, you will find us still in cages, despised and disciplined. You will find us still misnamed. Here you will find us despite. You will not find us extinct. You will find us here memoried and storied. You will find us here mighty. You will find us here divine. You will find us where you left us, but not as you left us. Here you endure and are luminous. You are not lost to us. The wind carries sorrows, sighs, and shouts. The wind brings everything. Nothing is lost.
Nothing is lost. Looking back, looking forward, Ancestry asks us to take that view from the mountaintop that sees not only where we've come from, but also where we are going, a vantage point that can hold both memory and hope. Nelson Mandela wrote, I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. And I've taken a moment here to rest, to look back on the distance that I've traveled, but I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom come responsibilities, and my long walk is not ended. Both Moses and Mohammed went to the mountaintop to receive inspiration. Moses seemed always to be climbing mountains, in fact. That's where he received the Ten Commandments, and he glimpsed the promised land from a different mountain, a promised land as an ancestor that he would never enter. Dr. King used that metaphor in his last speech in Memphis. I've been to the mountaintop, he said, and I've seen the promised land. Perhaps a mountain plays a part in your family story, in your ancestry. There is a mountain in mine. Let me introduce you to my great-grandmother, Delia Victoria Penland. She is in the center there sitting. This branch of my family, my mother's side, is from Western North Carolina, and this picture was taken in the early 1880s, about 140 years ago. Delia's eldest daughter, Ida, my grandmother, is on her left. Ida was born in 1865, after the Emancipation Proclamation. She was born free. But great-grandmother Delia was born in 1841, a slave of Robert Penland, who contributed both his name and his DNA to my ancestry. Delia's husband, William, sits to her right. They married after Delia's children had been born. They farmed land in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. Delia herself was a large and strong woman. At 6 feet, she was much taller than her husband, and according to the family stories, just as strong. Here is one of the stories that's been passed down in our family about Delia. Her husband had traveled across the mountain, probably to the small town of Waynesville, to do some business, to purchase supplies or pay a debt or get seeds for a crop. And while he was in town, he got into trouble. Now, this is the time when the first Jim Crow restrictions were being put in place, and getting in trouble was both easy and dangerous for black men. He wasn't arrested, he wasn't in jail, but he was hurt and he was hiding, and he was not able to travel. Delia got word that he was in trouble, and so the story goes, crossed the mountain herself, found her husband, and carried him on her back over the mountain to the relative safety of their farm. There is courage and strength in my ancestry, more, I think, than I have had to live up to myself. Their lives help me put my own modest struggles into real perspective. If they could live through all they did, if they could climb those mountains, well, surely I can manage to make it up the much smaller hills that I find in front of me. Delia's strength and courage inspire me, but they make me wonder if I would have been that strong. They make me wonder if I would have survived, in fact. I've also been shaped by my ancestors' commitment to education, and that comes straight from Delia, too. She and her husband found a way to send my grandmother, Ida, across the Smoky Mountains to Tennessee, to a school for black children founded by the Freedmen's Bureau, called a normal school. Ida graduated and actually taught in that school before returning to North Carolina to marry and teach in the 2-room black schoolhouse there for more than 50 years. And I have so many memories of grandmother Ida, memories of her sitting on her front porch, being greeted by every black person who walked by. "Morning, Miss Ida." They would bow, they would nod, because everybody knew Miss Ida. She had taught all of them in school. She was in her 90s when I got to know her. And it was at her side on that very front porch when I was 8 and 9 years old that I began learning, "Where you come from, Billy?" She was a teacher until the day she died. The commitment to education passed to Ida's children, including her youngest, my mother, and from my mother to me, and from me to my children, and from them to their children. Our ancestry passes on values and culture that can be strengths just as much as physical strength can be. It's a matter of embracing and valuing those strengths, and somehow not just being inspired by them, but believing that you can use those gifts yourself, that they are somehow present with you, within you, available to you, waiting to find expression through your life, through our lives. These gifts can come from ancestors of blood or ancestors of spirit, even religious ancestors. Kathleen has preached about some of the All Souls ancestors, A. Powell Davies and David Eaton, then John Quincy Adams, and even John C. Calhoun. Each contributed to the religious DNA here at All Souls, sometimes as inspiration, sometimes as cautionary tale. Complicated people they were, who contributed to the rich but complicated religious legacy they left for us and to us. None of these ancestors were perfect people. They were also, none of them, entirely despicable. Now, that's a harder statement for me to mean, looking back especially at John C. Calhoun, I must confess. But I do believe in principle that some amazing grace might have touched even his spirit. I do believe that, and so do you. And that is why we can call ourselves universalists. There's another way our ancestors, both personal and religious, can help us. They can allow us to see the complexity of our lives so that we can embrace the nuance and rich, layered complexity in our own living. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper is one of our religious ancestors. She's a person who is worth knowing if you have not met her, so let me introduce you. Harper was born in Baltimore in 1825 to free black parents and lived into the early years of the 20th century. She was a poet, author, lecturer, an activist, first for the abolition of slavery, and then for ahead of her time intersectional liberation that spoke directly to women of color. She co-founded, with Ida B. Wells and Mary Church Terrell, the National Association of Colored Women that we now know as the National Council of Negro Women, and my bet is that there's more than one member of that organization here present today. Her writing dealt with the complexities of real lived experience at a time when women generally, and black women in particular, were seen as mentally deficient. Her best-known novel, entitled Iola Leroy, is one of the first novels published by an African-American woman, dealt with a character, a light-skinned black person who rejected passing as white to work for the liberation of her people. Watkins Harper dealt with the complexity of real lives. And Watkins Harper called for religious persons to join the struggle for freedom, for liberation. Are these people Christians who make these laws which are reducing us to slavery? One of her characters asks. If this is Christianity, I hate and despise it. She embraced a radical, a liberatory Christianity that resonates still with us. Harper had been largely forgotten until Black Unitarian Universalists gathered in Philadelphia in 1992 to honor her memory, because Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was a Unitarian. She had encountered Unitarians on the lecture circuit and in her organizing, and found that she shared their view of Jesus as an ethical role model, primarily. She had a Unitarian Christology, that's the fancy theological term for this. And so she joined the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia in 1870 and regularly read her poetry from that pulpit. She was a Unitarian, but she also maintained membership in Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church, not too far down the street, where she regularly taught Sunday school. She lived a layered religious life that included both her Unitarian Christianity and ongoing connection with the religious traditions of her youth. And I wonder how many of us right here draw on religious thought and practices from more than one tradition, or even find ourselves, once in a while, drawn to a service or a celebration in a faith that we left, but that still speaks to part of our spirit. How many of you celebrate Diwali from the Hindu tradition, or Bodhi Day, the Buddha's birthday, or Shinto cleansing rituals, or look toward Beltane from the Celtic earth-centered traditions to mark the passage of spring, as well as being faithful members of All Souls, as a part of your Unitarian Universalist faith. Whether All Souls emphasizes those holidays or not, because not every holiday can be emphasized every year. I wonder how many of you claim a hyphenated religious identity as a Christian or Hindu or Jewish Unitarian Universalist. Our Unitarian religious ancestor, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, would, I think, understand. As Unitarian Universalists, we claim wisdom from the world's traditions as one of the sources of our faith. And each of the world's great faith traditions holds complexity in tension, because living an authentic life is complex. You know this. Unitarian Universalism and All Souls need to hold complexity as well. Complexity of racial and cultural identity, complexity of religious identity and practice, complexity of gender identity and expression, so many complexities that we know we should see as gifts and blessings. We know that. But it helps to have models. It helps to have exemplars and ancestors to point the way. I was with the group of Black Unitarian Universalists who gathered around Watkins Harper's grave outside Philadelphia in 1992. I had just entered seminary in midlife, and I was so thrilled to be in the presence of more than 100 Black Unitarian Universalists. At least one member of All Souls is here. I'm looking at Bill Rice. Was there as well, perhaps more. We brought a new headstone for her grave, but when the gravesite was cleared, the original headstone was discovered long ago, fallen and overgrown. We placed the new stone next to the original, which had been reinstalled, a metaphor for the truth of her life back then and the way we welcome her story into our lives today. Rich, justice-seeking, grounded, a real life. There is light beyond the darkness, joy beyond the present pain, one of her poems concludes. The shadows bear the promise of a brighter coming day. Her story is not only grounded, it is hopeful. There's one more thought I want to leave with you this morning. Thanksgiving, as Rob said, is just days ahead, and though I trust that we all know that the story of the happy multicultural feast to which the Pilgrims invited their indigenous neighbors is a fiction born of white supremacy, we all understand that, I trust. Still, devoting a day to gratitude and celebrating a holiday that centers on food rather than the giving of gifts, I think there's a lot to recommend that. And this year, more of us will likely be gathering with family and friends around a physical table and offering in-person prayers of gratitude. My own family will. 3 generations of us. Somehow, I have become not an ancestor yet, but I've become an elder. And I'm not sure exactly how that happened. I don't think any of us set out to become elders, but so be it. But I will certainly bring stories to that table. Stories about how love moves down through the generations. My grandmother, Ida, married a man, my grandfather, whose name was James Love. And so my mother's maiden name was Catherine Love. Now, that love name was not a celebration of warm affection. We're not talking about that loving feeling. It was the name of my grandfather's owner, Colonel Robert Love, who was rewarded with tens of thousands of acres of land for helping with the removal of the Cherokee on the Trail of Tears. Ancestry is complicated. Do not look for purity. But still, my mother's maiden name was Love, and I am a love preacher. And I think I come by my theology honestly, because it comes directly from my ancestors, both in name and in spirit. And I often pray with gratitude, with thanks and praise for that line stretching back from my mother Catherine to Ida, to Delia, and back beyond when the names have been lost. When the names have been lost, but the strength of those persons in the face of such violence, their strength was used in the service of love. And so there's gratitude for all that led up to my life and confidence that my children and grandchildren will answer the call of love as they are given to hear it, just as all of you will. And somehow that is what this church is all about too. It's all about what love called our religious ancestors to do in building this great church, and how love calls each of us to live today. The hope of this faith? The hope of this faith is that love might just turn out to be real. And we draw inspiration to keep believing that despite lots of evidence to the contrary. We draw inspiration to keep believing that, at least in part, from our ancestors who crossed mountains and seas, who lived for a brighter coming day. Their lives were statements of faith, out of which our own lives grow. And we look back to remind ourselves of whence we come, but we also look back to help us move forward with love. Words of Elizabeth Alexander. You will find us here memoried and storied. You will not find us here lost. The wind carries sorrows, sighs, and shouts. The wind brings everything. Nothing is lost. May that be so. Ashe and amen.
I feel exceptionally tall today. I wore some stilettos. I wasn't expecting this lift here. Good morning. Good morning, All Souls. It is so nice to see you all here today. This feels more like right? We sang together, and there are more people in the sanctuary. I'm so happy to see all of you here this morning, particularly because I am reminded that we are all enduring in love, and we are luminous, right? It came to me to remind you that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Each of you has your own loves, sorrows, journeys, destinies. In this moment, you bring all of who you are, Perhaps you worship today from a place of wholeness or brokenness or somewhere in between. Nonetheless, you are welcomed in this place, here and virtually. Each of you and all of your divine glory make up the whole of All Souls. This is not a place for some, but for all. We tend to one another here. It is indeed a very special place that requires all of us to thrive. If you have not fulfilled your pledge, I encourage you to do so today. And if you've not pledged, please give. Less than $1,500 per member for the entire church year will allow All Souls to meet the budget set by the congregation. And if you'd like a smaller breakdown, that's just $4 a day. $4 a day. If you prefer the more direct approach, and if you're in the sanctuary, you may certainly leave your gift with the ushers at the door. Giving in any increment, all at once or month by month, is certainly easy to do. All you have to do is go to the website, listed on the screen, I hope, and in the chat, and just click donate, or grab your cell phone, because we all have them near us all the time, and text your gift to 73256. I'll say it again, 73256. Thank you so much for being a beautiful part of the whole of All Souls.
When I think about dying, I think about children. And when I think about children, I think about you. And when I think about you, I feel like crying for my youth. And when I think of my youth, I think of my freedom. And when I think of my freedom, I feel so alone. And when I feel lonely, I want you to hold me in your arms. Ooh. I think about sleeping like a baby all through the night. And when I think of the night, I feel like weeping for my life. Ooh. And when I think of my life, I wanna be with you, shoulder to shoulder, and through the night. And we're waking up, and we're one day older, and we're making love. Ooh. About children, and then I think about dying, lying in your arms, and you
Please rise for the closing hymn.
We would be one as now we join in singing a hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice, strive to make us free.
As we go out from this sanctuary into a world so filled with need, may we find ourselves ready to pledge ourselves to answer love's call, grateful both for the gifts we have received and for the hope that now stirs in our hearts. This is the day we have been given. Let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace, practice love. Amen.
I thought that I had everything to myself. I felt that I did well in this living hell. See, I know what it's like to defend myself, but I lost all my worth and I spent all my wealth. Oh, but I know, I know my day will come. I'll see the sun, but it all just might come crashing right back down, down to the ground again. But I will stand again, my friend. Oh, my friend. Oh, in the mirror. I will stare across the Mississippi River and see